You're listening to the Everything Went Black podcast.
Karl and I return for another episode of Darkness Weaves, where we explore the work of Karl Edward Wagner. Last month on Soul Knox, we started Road of Kings, Wagner's Conan novel. So we're going to continue this week. We're going to be moving on to some of his other Conan pastiche novels in the future. And it's a lot of fun. If you're listening to this show, by all means, check out the other Horsemen of the Podcasting Apocalypse entries into this week's entertainment. Kicking things off every other Monday, we've got Brandon Legion's Horror Wolf 666. Up next on Tuesdays, we've got Jackie Smith's Into the Necrosphere. Wednesday is Everything Went Black, as well as Iblis Manifestations. Thursday is Necro Thursday, where the Necromaniacs Horror Podcast comes to you, as well as Day 1 of Soul Knox by Karl Haikara. Friday is Spitball Media. Saturday is a day off, but Karl returns on Sunday for Day 2 of Soul Knox. I'd like to thank everyone who's been supporting Everything Went Black over the years. It's much appreciated. It's been a long-standing pleasure of mine to be doing this show, and it means a lot to me that people listen. If you want to step up your involvement, you can also contribute to the Patreon. Everything Went Black on Patreon. For as little as $1 a month, you get bonus activity. For $5 a month, you get all the bonus episodes as well as early access to the shows. And for $25 a month, you can become a sponsor. Kalenius was one of the greatest of the Thorian kings, Kallidios informed them loftily. His was an age when Atlantis and Lemuria yet rose above the waves, and the kingdoms of his land were Verulia and Farsoon and Velusia, and Singara was a realm whose birth awaited another millennium. Well, I've never heard of this Kalenius, Sandokazi said petulantly. Nor his kingdom, nor his tomb. The kings and kingdoms of ancient Thuria are ghosts and dust, forgotten by the proud Hyborian civilization that has risen above the bones of their greatness, Kallidios sneered. I think there will come a day when our age too shall pass into dust, and the children who dance upon our bones shall remember our lands and our races only in their dreams. So how's it going, Karl? Everything going well?
Yeah, not too bad. How about you, Mike?
It's been very busy over here. So as you guys know, I took a couple weeks off from doing the show and back in action, and glad to be back, I guess. So yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, I mean, it happens sometimes, where you might run out of get caught with your pants down, you know what I mean? Like, where you're like, oh shit, I don't have anything, it's just better to just go, okay, we're taking a couple weeks off. And
Yeah, I was thinking like, I didn't want to post an old episode or, kind of do something that's wasn't up to my standards. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think maybe if I ever got in that position, I would maybe put out one of my Patreon episodes that I never put, that never went to the main feed, maybe, but or I just take the time off. I think I've only missed like one or 2 weeks since it started, but and that's usually around Christmas time. It's usually the last couple years I've done good, like getting caught up on episodes before Christmas started. So I plan ahead. I know when my busy periods are.
Yeah, no, that's good. So I wish I could plan like that. But either way, we're here and
Yeah.
we're picking up where we left off on Soul Knox with the Road of Kings, Conan novel. And really enjoying this one, man. This is definitely a Karl Edward Wagner novel, but it feels like a Conan story.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I think he gets the characterization of Conan pretty well. Um, and but it definitely also is definitely a Wagner like story at the same time.
Yeah, because I mean, some of the other pastiche writers, it feels sometimes it feels like if you've anyone out there who's read the other authors' attempts at writing Conan, sometimes it doesn't feel like a Conan story. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it all depends, like Andrew Offutt usually does a pretty good job.
Yeah,
Elsprog de Campbell and Carter, it's hit or miss. Sometimes they get it right and sometimes they don't. Robert Jordan, like, overall, I'd say his stuff is fun fantasy novels, but not necessarily good Conan novels. But um, he did write the novelization for Conan the Destroyer, but you can't blame him for that because he just wrote the novelization. You know what I mean? Like he
yeah,
didn't
yeah,
write the
totally.
story. That's an example. Conan the Destroyer is an example of something that doesn't feel like Conan.
Yeah, totally. All right, so last time we were catching up with Conan, um, he's in with the with Mordermy and his band of bandits and in the pit. So he's been, fully embraced by them and he's like one of the crew. So we have Mordermy who's like sort of the king of the thieves down there and we've got King Rimonendo who's you know the ruler of Cordova, a city in Zingara. And he's a ruler who's unjust and has got issues with people. Is your typical bad guy. We've got Sandokazi and Sandidio, brother and sister. Um, Sandidio is a member of he's a political figure, shall we say, and he's part of this group of revolutionaries,
Yeah, the White Rose.
the
We're
White
kind of
Rose. Yep.
yeah. We're w- it's who are kind of closer to say the Red Guard or something. So
Yeah. 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 Something
they're
like
like
that. They're
like
sort of
socialists and stuff. Yeah.
socialists. Yeah. So there's a plot to infiltrate King Rimonetto's birthday festivities. So we've got Conan, Sandakazi, Sandidio, and Mordermy. They're all in costume because it's a costume party for Rimonetto. So Conan is a little uncomfortable with it because part of him, he's like he wants to kind of do this thing one way or the other, completely clandestine or just roll up with full on brigandry. And this plot that they have is kind of a little bit of both. So it's like he's a little uncertain about the outcome.
Yeah, it's very much a civilized rogue plot. You know what I mean? Like it's not really a Conan plot, but he goes along. He's dressed up as a Zingaran, as dressed up as an Aesir essentially,
Yeah,
which
which is kind of ironic.
which is yeah ironic because how much he hates them. And the good thing about those that allows him to go in with a battle axe. That's part of why they did that.
Yeah,
Um, and then the others, Mordermy's dressed up as a kind of like travesty of the king.
yeah, yeah,
And then um, um, Sandiotti and Sandakazi are he's more dressed up like a regular mask goer, and then she's dressed up like a raven, like this raven cloak and stuff like that, but she's completely naked underneath.
yeah. She's she's a sexy raven.
Yeah, and there's a reason for that. We'll find out later.
Yeah.
Um, but anyway, so they infiltrate it, and the whole thing basically at an hour before midnight when the unmasking occurs, they've arranged it so that Sandokazi will dance for everybody, and and right when she gets done dancing is when the noose tightens. They got other guys like kind of infiltrated as like servants and things like that. And they've got the White Rose to come forward as like an angry mob at the front to distract them. And
Yes.
the plot goes off pretty well, actually.
Yeah. So there's a lot of moving parts to this thing. It's like, pretty well coordinated and all that.
Yeah. So they and it works out because like essentially what happens is that the when they spring their trap after her dance to uh, essentially rob everybody blind, which is what they do. The White Rose like mob is attacking the front gates, and that's suitably distracts the a lot of the guards to not even know what's going on. And then it doesn't help that the king doesn't allow his personal bodyguard to get involved with the robbing because he's afraid that they're there to murder him.
Yeah, exactly. That's the kind of you know, that's the atmosphere around this dude in his kingdom. He's like
Yeah,
not a very later on, like much in this, we'll find out how unliked he actually is.
but it's really pretty funny. It's a funny thought to think like the guards are up there and on the dais around the king, just watching everybody get robbed. It's it's pretty funny.
Yeah.
And they rob everybody and then they start making their retreat. Around the same time, the other guards figure out something's going on, and that's when they make their escape. And they got it plotted pretty good. They know that there's like this cliff that they can go down on to like a bunch of boats they already put down there to make their escape. Um, but of course Madurmi and Conan are the last two, and he Madurmi takes an arrow,
Yeah, he gets hit.
and then they start going down. And I really love the real demasculating that occurs to Madurmi in this part because like Conan like when the rope starts to break and Conan just grabs onto the side of the rock and it's like, God, this is easy to climb.
Yeah. Yeah, being the from the Sumerian wilderness, climbing cliffs as a young kid, it's
Yeah.
he's well conditioned to that sort of stuff.
Yeah, it's just funny because Madurmi's like, nobody can climb down this. He's like, I don't know about you civilized people.
But nonetheless, though, Conan feels like a true friendship with Madurmi. And then they talk about it later on in the section that we're covering tonight about how he likes Sandidio, but Mordermi is like an urban barbarian, according to Conan.
Yeah, he even though Madurmi's more civilized, he kind of sees him as an urban barbarian, which I think makes sense. He does seem like that. They definitely have the more um you know, I think they understand each other better. And I
Yeah,
think Conan understands what Madurmi's all about in this whole process as well. As we'll find out later, Conan pretty much is not surprised by the result of what'll occur later in the story. You know what I mean?
yeah. So as we move on, um, afterwards, the fallout of this whole thing is, Mordermi's recovering. He's from the arrow wound, and he's a little pale and kind of laid up for a little bit. Um, and they start discussing all the riches and jewels and gold and stuff like that they acquired in this excursion. And Conan, it's fun, it's interesting because he's like, we have all this loot now, but what do we do with it? It's too much money to just sort of get rid of. And it reminded me a little bit of like, like your typical like crime movie where now that you have diamonds or something, so you need a fence to get rid of it.
Well, that's exactly what they're talking about.
Yeah.
Conan brings it up like these are things that everybody will know what they are immediately,
Yeah,
And
exactly.
Madurmi's like, well, melt down the gold and the silver and the gems we have to go through a fence of his. And so there's like it's like a process. Like they to actually turn all the the wealth into something useful, it's a whole process. But
And it even touches a little bit on like, how like in like a mob movie where suddenly everyone has their own plans for the loot, because like, Carico and Avinti come in and they're scheming about how they're going to spend the money and, everyone has like their own agendas when it comes to how the money should be spent and everything.
yeah, like all of the White Rose guys have like totally different ideas about how they want to spend the money, essentially. And
And
on
also,
their half of the money rather.
yeah, and also, they're definitely well aware that they're on Rimonendo's radar. They're revealed. Like as far as like, okay, they disrespected him by infiltrating his birthday party and robbing everybody, right under his nose and escaping and getting away with it. So it's like, they're expecting to have some sort of like, retribution meted out on them.
Right, and it's not really a secret that it was um who it was who did the heist, you know what I mean? Like it's not like it's a big surprise that Murdermi did it, you know what I mean? Like and because the White Rose were involved, they can very easily take it as like open insurrection essentially, and that
Exactly.
Murdermi's decided to be revolutionary. So they are expecting some type of attack on the pit at some point. And
Yeah.
at some point during this whole conversation, um, a man comes in named Callidios, right?
He just kind of slithers into the scene.
Yeah.
And it turns out that he's part Stygian and part Acer. He's I always think of Stygia as like
They're like
um,
ancient Egypt.
yeah, like ancient Egypt. Like when you read about the stories and the culture there, it has like a very very heavy duty like Egyptian sort of feel to it. So he just sort of appears out of nowhere, and he enchanted like the guards outside, and he did some like low level spells so that he could be enter like undetected basically.
Right. And he kind of like starts essentially like talking to them, and he kind of you know he essentially tells everybody what the things they want to hear, right?
Yeah,
Like
they starts manipulating everyone.
yeah. And Conan like is like immediately like we should take the head off of this Stygian
Yeah, yeah,
like
yeah, totally. He sees, sort of sees like through his whole facade.
yeah.
What's interesting about Clydios is, like we mentioned that, he's part Stygian, part Acer, and Acer are, you know, enemies, I guess, of the Sumerians from up north. They're like the sort of blonde Nordic folk from the north, basically. So Clydius's father was a priest of Set, and his mother was a captured slave where they needed a virgin for some kind of ritual, right? But his dad, had other ideas about that and made her unsuitable for a uh, for a ritual involving a virgin, and hence
Yeah.
that's the birth of Clydios.
Yeah. And he's not a full like mage priest of Set either because he kind of is a self-taught sorcerer essentially who's
Yeah,
skulked around and tried to ferret out all kinds of secrets that he can.
yeah, and he even says in himself that there's like certain things he just doesn't know about. He's very very specific with his spell abilities and enchantments and things like that.
Yeah. But he has power though. I mean,
Yeah,
he's not like a joke or anything. And like Conan also hates the Stygians about as much as he hates Aesir. So this guy's like a combination of two of his most hated like
yeah,
people, you know what I mean? Like it's pretty
absolutely,
funny.
man. But one of the things that Clydios indicates to them is that he knows where to get like one of the most mighty, armies in the world, and they just need to listen to him, and he'll take them to this army.
And he does give them good advice, I think, which is
Yeah,
like you should use this money. This money you can use this money. You can either just divide this up and everybody runs off with their little bit, or you could use this money to actually, take out the king and everything. Like and you can use it by buying mercenaries and doing this and that. And I mean, that's all good advice. That's all good advice, and what he's saying is true. That at this point, they've started the war. They need to
yeah.
realize that it's not going to be business as usual anymore.
And he definitely appeals to Rimonendo's ambitions, like you were saying, like, you
Or
could,
more dermies.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry, yeah, more Dermy. You could, setting him up to be like, you could be the ruler of all of Zingara if you play your cards right. And but what's also interesting too is just speaking to the more small time vibes of some of these people, where and also some of the idealism of the White Rose, where they're like, well, the the soldiers in Rimonetto's army won't, when it comes brother to brother, they're not going to fight each other. And I think it's Callidios who points to the pile of treasure, and he's like, well, they're going to fight for whoever gives them this, basically. He's like more kind of pessimistic about that, more cynical about people's motivations for fighting.
And more action, more and he's right. You know,
Yeah, yeah,
they're,
basically, he's right.
they'll very quickly find out that
Hmm.
uh, they're not right at all. Like their like ideals are very much like in the clouds. Like and uh, I do you think that in some way maybe Wagner's not like the way this guy looks and stuff, but kind of like maybe like modeling a little bit after like Rasputin or something.
Yeah, no, I was getting that same vibe, man.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah.
Um, but essentially, they want Conan, they want to see the proof of what he's talking about. And essentially, Kodos takes Conan and Sandakazi out. Conan, because he's like, well, we need somebody who's strong and who can, do the boat and everything. And Sandakazi goes on to make sure that Conan doesn't like
Yeah, kill like
kill him and leave him out in the middle of the ocean,
yeah.
which Conan thinks about doing quite a lot.
Yeah. This is like one of the coolest parts of the book, I think, is they row out into the harbor and there's like once again we've got a hidden sunken city below the waves, and unbeknownst to most people, that's like the tomb of Calenius of Thuria. And now this is, Thuria is a land that goes back to the Cull stories. They that's referenced in the Atlantean era.
Yeah. Yeah, they go over like part of the um capital that sank when the earthquake happened, and then they get to a part that's older, and yeah, he points out like in this section there is like the ruin remnants of this Thurian capital with King what was his name,
Calenius.
Calenius, and
Yeah.
who dates from the era of King Cole and the Atlanteans and the blue, and it's pretty cool like the whole story he gives about all of this, and I really like the way that Wagner kind of deals with like this King Calenius built this like monument that he thought would last forever. He wanted it to be eternal, essentially, right?
And it
And
reminded me, what is it, the Terracotta Warriors? Like there's I should
in
have wrote
in,
this down. You know
in
what I'm talking
China,
about?
yeah,
In China,
yeah.
yeah. It kind of reminded me a little bit of that, obviously maybe Wagner had that same thing in mind.
I think Wagner was definitely inspired by those Terracotta Warriors for sure. But he was probably thinking like, what if those Terracotta Warriors were actual like, you know,
Yeah.
living statue warriors? Yeah, I'm pretty sure that that's where he got that idea from. Because I think they found those Terracotta Warriors, or um, I'm not sure when they discovered those, like, but I think it became really more famous around the time he's writing this. So
Yeah. Yeah, so essentially, um, well, at first he asked him to look down beneath the waves, and he said, "Can you see them? Do you see, these these human forms below the waves, And it's like, um, the whole visual of that is pretty cool, I think. You look down below the waves and you see these human forms down there.
Yeah. Yeah, I just looked it up. Okay, so the Terracotta Army was a collection of sculptures depicting armies of, and I don't know how to pronounce Chinese, sorry, but Qin Shi Huang, the first emperor of China, was buried in 210 BCE and was discovered in 1974.
Oh,
So,
okay.
literally right as he was writing that, like about to write this. So, what do you want to bet that he saw something about those terracotta? Because it was pretty, very, very famous, I think, in the 70s after they found that. He's probably inspired by that for sure.
So this is the army that Clydios is talking about. And he's Conan mentioned something is like, oh, what kind of man would sign himself up to be like this eternal guardian for like a dead king, and by his own free will. And Clydios is like, well, it's unclear in the legends whether or not it was by their own free will or they were sort of interned to be these stone warriors below the waves.
Yeah. And they figured out that they're still active and moving because one of them tries to grab Sandakazi when she gets too close to them. And Conan has to like cut the like shift that she's wearing as they're swimming. And
Of course he does.
yeah. And it's it, you know, these things are when they get into action, I mean, they're pretty scary. They're almost like demonic the way they're described. So,
It's almost like in Hebrew folklore, like the golem, like the idea of
yeah,
the golem, except that
definitely.
these were actually at one point living people, like living humans. They weren't just like clay, like animated. But there was a comic book called it was in one of the Marvel comics, like Marvel Spotlight or something like that. It was or one of the horror comics. They had a story about a golem, and that
Hmm.
always scared me as a kid. And that idea of like this kind of like clay that's been animated to that becomes out of control is I always thought that was really scary.
Yeah. Well, it was also an influence on Mary Shelley for
Yeah,
Frankenstein as well.
Frankenstein. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, when they get back to the land, they find out that the general has decided to make an all assault on the pit. And so there's a whole section where they're trying to get through to Madurmi and his men, and then Conan has to get down to like the main barricade and they have to make a defense. And they're talking about like making these barricades and stuff. It kind of reminds me of reading about like the various revolutions that occurred in the 1800s and in Paris when they like
Yeah.
barricade the streets. You know what I mean?
Hmm. Yeah. Oh, so by the way, the name of this army, they're the Final Guard, which is kind of a cool name for a you know stone warrior guard.
Yeah, the final guard.
Yeah.
The and so now we're kind of like in this whole battle section, which is pretty cool with Conan trying to make up the defense and they're getting pushed back and it's all like Wagner does really good with describing all this kind of battle scenes.
Wagner and Howard definitely share that ability of writing action really well.
Yeah, like I would say the people who I think write the best like fighting scenes is Howard, Wagner, and Gemmel.
I was going to say Gemmel for sure, definitely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like out of a lot of the fantasy I've read, they're the three I think who do the best, where you really feel the visceral nature of the fight. Like it's not like you feel like and it's like exciting to read and it's just really well written. And you're never confused about what's going on. There's some writers in any genre, like whatever genre it is, like when they have like a fight scene or a shootout or something where it's actually like super confusing. Like they just they don't make it very clear about what's going on. Wagner never has that issue. you're always pretty clear on what's going on.
Also, it's impressive about well, Wagner, since we've been reading a lot of him lately, it's just his knowledge of arms and armor is very impressive, I think.
Yeah, he did a lot of research on armor. Um,
Yeah. And even like the sea battles that he talks about in the Kane stories, about the triremes and the biremes and all that. It's like, you know, knowing that distinction, even just with like the naval equipment, the ships and all that.
yeah. A newer author who I think gets that battle stuff really right is this guy John Gwynn. I think I've told you about
Yeah,
him.
you
He,
did. You have told me about it. I'm
yeah,
still got to read some of his stuff.
yeah. His stuff has that, but he's also a historical reenactor, so he actually like does like particularly like Viking battle reenactment stuff. So he's pretty very intimate with like the how it feels to wield a sword and wear armor and shit.
Well, you also know a lot about swords. I picked up on that in doing these episodes with you. You know a lot about the different swords over the centuries and all that, different countries and all that.
Yeah, I've done, I try to do, definitely learned a lot about those things. I find it interesting. One book that's really cool that I have, it's a good resource for all that I got at, I got at, uh, Barnes and Noble back when I was a kid, but for like European, like this one called European Arms and Armor
Oh, wow. Okay.
by Charles Henry Ashton. And it's got illustrations for like all the armor and goes through the whole era from, essentially like ancient Greece through to like basically like the Bronze Age when people started making armor all the way up to like the um I think it ends with um yeah, the introduction of gunpowder, right? And the end of kind of that kind of armor. It's pretty cool. I like learning about that kind of stuff into different swords
Yeah.
and I also really like Japanese swords as well, and I think that stuff's really fascinating. So I
So the battle's not really going too well for Rimonendo and his crew in the pit.
no, and part of it's like burning out of control, which luckily did close off one of the avenues. But essentially, what the general course is doing is trying to drive down through the main kind of the biggest avenue that there is in the pit. And Conan's basically thinking like if he's not able to break through, then he's just gonna shove soldiers down every single like little hole that people get in and out here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, but it's at this moment that he all of a sudden Madurmy shows up and Khalidis isn't there, but Madurmy's like, we're going to conquer or whatever, and then next thing you know, like the final guard make their appearance.
Yeah. And just a reminder that General Korst is from the last episode is the guy who sentenced Conan to death. So
Yeah,
so yeah, he's got like he sentenced him to hang, So
just because the other guy challenged him to a duel and he had the uh you know he won and Conan won, but he can't because he's not a noble. He has to die. It's like
yeah, yeah. So just a reminder who he is exactly.
yeah,
So he's heading up this invasion of the pit. So but and they meet again actually.
yeah. At the same time, Sandiati and Da Vinci and all them are out in the city trying to raise up support of people in the upper city of Cordova. But it's at this moment that the final guard make their appearance, and it's described like a horror movie, basically.
Yeah.
Like yeah, like them emerging from the. I could imagine this in a movie. Again, I feel like this would make a really good movie. Like this whole book, like, and I could just imagine like a scene of like them all coming up out of the water. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. So I picture them like with glowing eyes for some reason coming out of the water.
Yeah.
and it's a pretty much like a slaughter. If you think about it, there's these men made out of stone, just like basically invincible.
Yeah, they're made out of some type of unholy, unnatural substance that seems to be stone. I do think that he's drawing upon. Do you remember the Conan story that Howard wrote, where he dealt with some like kind of black, like these black figure, like black men who were kind of like stone like.
Vaguely, yeah.
Yeah,
Well, I had, we're going to be exploring those short stories again fairly soon, but yeah, vaguely, I remember something like that.
yeah. So I think, but anyway, so I mean, and they're definitely described as being very unholy and unnatural, and I mean, they're part of this Thurian age magic. You think about Kull and this ancient, I mean, really like ancient magic. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's really pretty cool. Um,
And in some ways, Conan's kind of horrified by the way that they just destroy Korst's men too.
yeah. Well, for him, um, the for
Like he,
him, like it's like he wants a clean, you know. Yeah, sure, they might die, but he's like he'd rather have a clean death than watch like a bunch of men get massacred by some unholy abominations,
yeah,
essentially.
exactly. Yeah. Then he thought back to like the massacre that damn, I'm trying to remember the details of it, but he talked about the massacre where the Sumerians like murdered, women and children and, and all these massacred this tribe. Oh no, it was the Venarium. Venarium. That was the town of Venarium, which was an Aquilonian outpost. And the Sumerians basically put everyone to the sword. And that is what he was recalling watching the final guard massacre Korst's men.
Yeah. Yeah, he's thinking about Venarium and everything. And I mean it's pretty horrific. I mean all the soldiers start running towards their lines to get away from the
Yeah,
the
yeah.
guard. And then next thing you know, um next thing you know, it's like uh one second. Next thing you know, it's full on route and they're basically winning just because of this final guard. And, they're starting to march through the city. And so all the people from essentially Murdermy's like, let's go, like take back our casino, all the stuff. And everybody essentially from the pit follows them up into the city. And then, some of the people from the city start following them and it becomes this, big thing as they go up towards the castle of the king, essentially.
Yeah, it's like a full on like revolt, basically, of even
Yeah.
just the regular citizens of Cordova.
Yeah, because at this point, they've watched the soldiers get crushed, you know, and it seems like nobody there likes Reminato. And I mean, why would you? The way he was described earlier is so disgusting. Like he's just this like slug, like he's like Java the Hutt or something. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
basically, yeah.
Like a human Java the Hutt, like up there, like with like like basically like raping boys and stuff from what it sounds like. You know what I mean? Like he
Yeah,
just
they
sounds
they
yeah.
they hint at that, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, as they go towards, some of the soldiers put up a fight still because and Wagner says like maybe it's because they weren't aware, they didn't believe the story of the final guard or they didn't hear about it. But pretty quickly they find out. And they even try to like shoot catapults at him, and like Conan describes like watching like a big like stone hit one of them, and it just like gets up in one fluid motion, like, and he half expects to see it like dusting itself off.
Yeah.
And they literally just tear the fucking door down, like the big giant like door to the to the king's castle. They just rip it off of its hinges, basically. It's crazy.
Yeah, so at this point they've infiltrated Rimonendo's keep there. They're in his throne room essentially. And they pretty much give him up, man. Like they present his head to to Mordermy. They give him the crown with the head attached to it is how I think they put it.
Yeah. And before that, Conan saw Korst. Um, Korst said something to him like, "This is how it starts. Like you'll be me before you know it. Like essentially before he died, right?" Which,
Yeah, they have their final like sort of they reconcile in some ways. Not really reconcile, but they he Conan finds Korst broken. He's still alive, and that's where they have that final sort of confrontation, and Conan feels some kind of like fellow warrior sort of camaraderie with him, like fallen, you know, and Korst basically warns him that, you won for today, but before too long, you'll be, captain of the guard, carrying out someone else's orders, basically.
right. And Conan doesn't really. I think he doesn't fully like take it seriously, but Conan's also supposed to be in his like 20s at this point, right? He's pretty young, so.
Yeah,
But I don't think that's what Conan wants for himself, right? And that's going to be the miscalculation that Mordermy makes, like essentially is that he thinks that he can just browbeat Conan and thinks that he's, dumber than he is, that he sees Conan as a pawn. This is mentioned
yeah,
earlier. Him and Khalides see Conan as a dumb barbarian pawn, which is their mistake, as the towards the end of the story will become clear. You know what I mean?
yeah. But I do like how they talk about presenting Mordermy with the crown
Yeah,
and as an
yeah, on the
afterthought
head.
on the head of Rimonendo.
Yeah, like on a platter, like those little things like John the Baptist, and it's like the two like boys that he has around him all the time who like you know
Yep.
what I mean?
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, they
yeah,
they finally get their their retribution against the Rimonendo.
yeah. And it's a cool moment, and I mean no surprise, but like as we'll find out in the first line of the next chapter, Murdermity makes himself king, and that kind of kicks off the what'll be going on in the final section of the book. So
Yeah. This one's pretty you can find copies of this out there, you know. It's technically I guess is out of print and but you can still find copies like on Amazon and whatnot.
yeah, this one is definitely out of print. But yeah, I mean, I got the first copy. I have two copies now. The first one I got for $12 on Amazon. This other one I got for much cheaper. I showed Mike earlier, but the bookstore by my house did a sale for one day where they're charging a penny a page,
Dude,
and they had Night Winds there, and I had been
hell yeah.
eyeing it, and it was $25, and I kind of been eyeing it, trying to decide like if I want to spend the money on it or not. So as soon as I found out about that sale, I was like, I went right up there and picked it up for like 250.
Dude, I wish I had well, maybe when I move, like I was telling you before, um, I've been trying for the last like 9 months to buy a house and we're a couple steps closer and maybe hopefully in near the town I'm moving to, there'll be some cool stuff like this because I'm, getting further away from the city and, sort of the area I'm moving to. It looks like there's you know, people read and stuff like that. So that's good.
Yeah, I'm always surprised by, because the place I go to by my house is called Second and Charles, and it's a big chain. They're all across the country. They're kind of, I think, similar to, I think out there it's more half price books is kind of a
Yeah.
similar
Yep.
one.
I've seen those around.
Similar idea. But it's like books, movies, you know, all music, everything, all kinds of stuff there. And I'm always surprised with what I find there, man. Like it's I think it's just a byproduct of the fact that more and more cool people have to live in the suburbs. You know what I mean? So it's
Yeah.
like Um, but
There's a couple of thrift stores. My wife is like really big into like thrifting. So you know, if anyone who's never been to New Jersey, there's like all the town there's a million towns in like a square mile. You know what I mean?
yeah,
It's like there's you go down 2 blocks and you're in another town, then there's another town after that. So I'm not exactly sure what town this is in. I'm gonna say it's like you know, maybe Roselle or something like that. But there's a really, really cool like thrift store there that has a pretty huge book selection. And I always find something when I go there. So I gotta start hitting those places more, I think.
yeah, definitely. But for sure, it's be a really good place. I mean, I see people post on the Karl Wagner group I'm part of on Facebook, like stuff they find at like thrift stores or places all the time. I always
Well,
that's like the big thing I always check everywhere I go is Wagner.
yeah, totally. And you saw, you know, Mike all last year, there was like that Mike Scandato, the guy I do Necromaniacs with. There was he always talk about the post office by his where he lives, and there's someone would just leave these books out. He found all these like Conan books and stuff, like these novels, and
Yeah, and
pretty funny.
was it Night Winds or was it Book of Kane that he found there? I
I
forget.
think it was Book of Kane that he found there.
Yeah, which is crazy. Yeah. The nice thing about the bookstore here too, the Second Trials, they have uh all that like newer like budget line of masterworks of sci-fi.
Yeah,
Like
totally.
I showed you that one picture of that
Yep.
one author, but there's a lot they put out a lot of cool books in that line. Like I got like C.L. Moore's like Jory
Oh,
series.
yeah, yep, yeah.
I got Kuttner's book Fury. But they have like I think they put out mo almost everything that Philip K. Dick did. Like
That's a lot.
yeah, like just tons of classic sci-fi and fantasy stuff is in this. And they're like they sell them at Second Charles for like $5, $6. Like I've been really enjoying that because there's just some cool books. You're like like gives you a chance to check out maybe some classic sci-fi stuff or whatever that you haven't read. Um,
So you recently finished Shadow of the Torturer, you're saying, right?
yeah. Yeah, I finished the first book. I still need to read the other ones, but
Yeah.
I'm gonna swing back around to that. Um, yeah, Shadow Torture is great. Maybe we should just do an episode about the first book, about that book, rather than the whole series.
Yeah. I mean, what I ended up doing, I read the first book for that, and then I read the first book of the First Law trilogy, the Abercrombie book, The Blade itself. I finished that one. And then now I think I read the first third of the new Adam Neville book, Monumental.
Yeah, I have my copy, but I haven't read it yet. But are you liking it?
Oh yeah, it's great. It's well, we'll talk about it, but it's very much right straight away I was like this is inspired by the Willows, the Algernon Blackwood novella.
Right, because they're like out in like a camping trip, right? Like
Yeah,
a
they're
kayak trip or
they're
something.
yep, they're kayaking and it's an uncanny wooded area. I mean it's not like the Willows is like, you know, very there's like a preternatural element to it, you know, where it's not necessarily monsters or anything like that, or, you know,
Yeah.
it's not it's just like a weird tale, you know. This is definitely a horror story. Like there's some horrific stuff that happens, but you know, man, I really would love to talk to Adam Neville. I've corresponded with him a few times, but he hasn't agreed to come on the podcast at any point. So it's like because I want to ask him so much about this particular novel too, you know, because I know that he, you know, he's like very much into the same types of things that we're into.
Yeah, I mean, it would be really cool if you could get him on the podcast to talk
Yeah,
about it. Yeah, like it's cool though, because like I mean, I post when I got my copy, I posted it on social media, and he um I'm friends with him on Facebook and on Instagram, and
yeah,
he like messaged you act like t
yeah,
like after when I posted it and thanked me for posting it, and said I hope you like it and all this stuff, and I was like,
yeah. He's very active. Like, you know,
yeah.
he's very approachable too. I mean, my first contact with him is like I emailed him just not even expecting like any kind of response, and like, you know, within a day or so, he got back to me.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I mean, it's cool that he can just like that. It's cool that he goes on his way to like thank people who buy his books and stuff like that. Because I'm sure he sells quite a lot. I mean, I know he self-publishes everything, I think, right? Like,
That's the coolest thing about it is it's like his material is all self-published.
outside of I think like what the ritual and
Yeah, like the earlier stuff is another imprint put those out, but his most recent books are all self-published, and then there's those collections. I don't know if they're still in print or not, but there's like None Shall Sleep and like another one. There are these two black short story collections that he had. They have black covers and like black and white covers.
yeah, they're on Amazon. I think they're like print on demand. So if I remember
Yeah,
correctly, yeah, yeah,
I highly recommend those. I mean, they're pretty reasonably priced, I think, and it's like really, really good. It's like early material, um, and you can see like his influences are a little bit more front and center, but the quality of the stories are still there. I mean, you can see there's one of the stories is actually a Cthulhu mythos tale. Um, there's a weird Western with a vampire. There's like some kind of like Legati-esque, stories in there, with, sort of animated marionettes, like Legati's like into that whole,
yeah.
like that's like, like that's kind of his thing, like there's some of that too. There's like aspects of that in some of those short stories. It's just really interesting. I've reread a bunch of those. They're really great.
Yeah, I need to finally pick those up. I don't have all of his books. Like, there's definitely some that I need to pick up. Like, um, I don't have the one he released after the Reddening, um, with like the crone.
Oh
Um,
yeah. It's like Simple Folk or something like that. Or
there's Cunning Folk or whatever it's called. That yeah, I have. There's two of his novels that I don't own, which are those two, and
yeah,
then
the
and
one I
then
read that one though, the one with the crone. Just the titles escape me right now.
yeah,
Yeah, those are good. This is probably his best book that he's written since The Reddening, I'm gonna say. It's very they're long it's longer because how I was commenting on like how the last few novels were like 250 pages,
yeah.
and like The Reddening's like a 500 page book, and The Ritual it's like like a longer piece. And
Yeah,
this is longer. This isn't 200. I think it's like three something maybe, right? 350 or maybe.
346. Yeah,
Yeah, so it's like, it's not, 250 I feel for his novels is too short. I think he needs like 300 between 300 and 500 pages.
yeah. I've been looking. Yeah, the Vestal. This is the one with the crone in it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's it, the vessel, yeah.
there's a bunch that I didn't even know what these are. Like, I remember I've heard about Apartment 16, but I've never heard of House of Small Shadows
So
or
I haven't read either one of those. Like I
yeah,
need to get those. But you pretty much can't go wrong, man. Even like his less great books are still pretty damn good.
yeah. There's definitely a bunch that I need to get. Um, I really like I like the artwork he does with Sam Araya. Like
Yeah,
I yeah, I'm gonna need to read this one. Yeah, Ritual Limited is thing he put presses. The yeah, I'll have to read it. We'll have to cover it at some point. The
yeah, totally.
Monumental.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah,
The
definitely.
but I do need to get some of the short story collections and things as well. Um yeah, right now I've been reading a book I sent you, the Hardwired book by Walter John Williams, and it's off that book was like one of those books that I just started like reading the first like sometimes you just like read the first paragraph just to kind of get a feel for the book.
Yeah.
Next thing I know, I finished like the whole first chapter, like
That's a good
and
sign.
yeah, and it's really good. It's definitely like in the same vein as like Neuromancer, same era. It came out in 87, I believe. Walter John Williams also was a big influence on the cyberpunk uh, tabletop game written by Mike Pondsmith.
Hmm.
And he actually worked with Art Talsorian on, I think, Cyberpunk 2020, the second edition. He worked for them for a while, and and when I read the book, I can totally tell because, like, if anybody's played like Cyberpunk 2077 or any of those things, like, you'll see immediately, like, what stuff he probably wrote into those game worlds, you know.
Yeah, yeah, totally.
But it's really good. It's really really well written. Like uh writing in a like I don't know, just really descriptive, and you're kind of left to try to like figure out. It's much like Gene Wolfe. You're kind of have to figure out the world. It's set in the future, obviously. It's like an Earth where essentially what happened is that they're a part of like the uber rich and everything went off to space essentially and created like a new like monarchy in the space essentially, and uh, basically tried to take over to kind of turn the Earth into like their vassal planet, the whole planet into their vassal essentially by doing shooting like all these like comets into the like basically like weaponizing like comets, or not comets, but like
Like
meteorites,
asteroids and meteors.
asteroids.
Yeah,
Yeah. So
yeah.
they shot all these rocks down to like destroy parts of their part, like like whole cities essentially, and the whole Earth like gave in to these like you know what they call the orbitals, who are all the rich people who moved up to outer space essentially. And they're essentially the orbitals, like all these like uber rich in space, are essentially just like raping the Earth of all its resources and everything, and have tried to turn everybody on who's on planet into their like vassals essentially. And from what I understand, the storyline kind of follows a kind of rebellion against them essentially.
That's kind of like a that's a recurring theme in some science fiction, you know, like there's that was it Elysium, like that movie that came out a number of years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. I always like that sort of you know, the Earth is like this like wasteland, and there's like a ruling class and all this other stuff. It's interesting.
Yeah. What's also like weird, like the part of the book is set in one of the main characters is from like out in this part of like part of his like one of his like hideouts is here in Colorado, which is kind of funny reading.
Oh yeah.
Like yeah. The it's pretty cool, like, and I also think pretty likely because all the rich seem to be pretty dead set and trying to get to space for whatever reason. So like it's like we seem to be
Well,
going in that direction.
I
So
mean, yeah, I mean if you really think about it, they had their way, you know, all these Elon Musks and Peter Thiels, you know, the Earth would just be one big data center, you know.
yeah,
And
just the like for them to like use to their own devices essentially. Yeah,
yeah, recently we watched we rewatched The Matrix, for the first movie.
yeah, the movie's great.
It's funny how it's just, you know, it's like, you know, the dystopian future where it almost feels like we're following that same trajectory, or it's like, you know, these losers like Peter Thiel and stuff, like they watched The Matrix and that was like what they based their whole like worldview on, you know.
Or like Terminator,
Yeah, the
like
Terminator. Yep.
James Cameron has said, like, I didn't make the Terminator to like inspire you assholes, basically. Like,
Yeah,
like, hey, but you see like these military people who saw Terminator, like, it'd be great building Terminators, like, and they've started building these like endoskeleton, like,
yeah.
so like robots to fight, and you're like, this
Well,
is
there,
this is how Terminator started. Like, what the fuck are you doing?
yeah, and there was I remember all those like videos from Boston Dynamics.
Yeah, with the robot dogs. Yeah.
Yeah, you know, then there was that Black Mirror episode, basically with the same thing in it, like it was called like Metalhead, I think it was called.
Yeah. And that show was scary because it's based on something that's real.
Oh yeah, totally, man. There's a lot of stuff in Black. They stopped making them. They stopped. Well, actually, let me. The British ones, the original ones, are the best. The ones that are straight up like British, you know, productions, and those were darker, I thought, and they were like a little more hard hitting. And I feel like the Black Mirror is like it became like a Netflix show with like U.S. production, it softened up a lot, I felt like.
Yeah, I've only ever watched like episodes out of the first season, so
It's those are the best ones, man. You know
yeah.
what I mean?
And
Yeah.
I didn't even see all of them either. I saw like my ex at the time, she is like showed me like what she thought were the best episodes. Not like so I saw like the dog one and a couple others, but I didn't watch. I haven't even seen the whole season. So
Yeah, the most recent season I watched, and I was just kind of like, meh, it was all right. There's certain things that were there's some pretty cool stuff in it, but mostly it was like, you know, it just didn't hit as hard, man.
right, yeah. I mean, I think that first season, all the episodes I saw seemed to really be like, let's take something that's here right now and how it just like progress into a certain kind of horrible way, you know?
Actually, have you seen The War of the Worlds? It's a series, the British and French production.
The no, I haven't seen that
Dude,
one. Yeah.
that is one of the grimmest like depictions of like versions of that story. It's I just sort of it was around like 20 it came out a while ago. It was like 2020, right before the pandemic. And I remember I found it on Amazon. I think it might still be on Amazon. And there's like three seasons of it. And it's like an sort of like it doesn't really tell the story, the H.G. Wells story, like note for note. It's like inspired by that idea of an alien invasion.
Yeah.
And it's just fucking grim, man. I don't know too many people have actually seen it, to be honest.
I've heard it's good. Yeah.
It's really, really good, man. It's got
What
Gabriel Burns in it. It's like really good.
uh kind of like random, but something I just thought of, what was that one book series you read recently about like the AI thing that came down and like the alien that came down and grabbed all the, data from everybody or whatever.
Oh, Blind Sight.
Blind Sight, that's it. Yeah. I've
Yeah,
been meaning to want to
there's
read
like
that.
that's part of like a series too, actually.
Yeah, by Peter Watts, right?
Yeah, Peter Watts. That's it. That's a dense, like hard sci-fi book, but it's got sort of like these pessimistic like points of view on consciousness and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, I've been meaning to I want to check that out. I've been wanting to check that out some.
Well, in the alien, like when they actually go out into space and all that, like the alien himself itself is like they're almost like these weird like viruses. Like it's kind of it made me think of a lot of different things. Like how like Ligotti talks about like there's like this mechanical force that sort of pushes things forward that we don't really exist. Our consciousnesses are sort of illusions. And it's like the aliens in Blind Sight are like that. Like they don't have any pretense to having a consciousness, but there's like this mechanical force that is they're like a virus, like a virus exists and
Yeah.
but there's no consciousness. Like they absorbed all this information, from Earth and our culture so they can put responses together
Yeah.
they can communicate, but there's no actual consciousness communicating with you. It's just like this like sort of syntax. You know what I mean?
Kind of like AI,
It's exactly like
yeah.
that. It's like, and
Yeah.
that's kind of, that book came out a while ago, but it's like I guess on the cusp of this whole AI explosion, and it's very much like that idea where like some of the people on the spaceship that go out there, they think they're actually speaking with with a conscious being, but they're just being responded to basically. It's it really interesting. And then I forgot the name of the second book. I read the second book as well. It takes place like a few years after that.
It's Echoproxia.
The Echoproxia. Yeah, that's I read both of those.
Yeah.
That one's a little bit more like action, but it's a good book though. But I Blind Sight was probably my favorite out of the two.
Yeah, I want to check that out. It sounds really cool. Um,
Yeah, it's really conceptual, which I dug about it.
yeah, that sounds like the kind of sci-fi that I like. The
Yeah.
it like and that's an interesting idea with that like the thing with AI like in general, at least AI that we have now is that it doesn't generate anything, It's literally just like you said, it's the syntax. It's just responding things like, and they're finding that more and more and more. Like, I saw like some scientific stuff where they're doing research to with like word math solutions,
Hmm.
and if you add in any like totally non the one I saw was something with like kiwis, like it was like, Brad has 48 kiwis and then he get sells this many and then he buys this many and how many does he have? But then at one point, if you add a sentence that says like three of the kiwis are smaller than the others, the AI, no form of AI that we have nowadays has any way of understanding that th three kiwis are smaller than the others has nothing to do with the word problem. So it will give you the wrong result because it doesn't understand that it puts three it like subtracts adds three to the equation somehow and always ends up being wrong. Like
Yeah. No, it's cool, and when I read Blindsight, it was I think it was during the pandemic I read that. I ended up it got me really I got these like really heavy like moods after reading like a couple chapters because of you're by yourself and you're thinking about like what if I don't have any real consciousness? Like what if like the collection of cells in my head are just responding to things like in this kind of predetermined mechanical way, and
yeah.
I mean, it's very much like in that sort of pessimistic arena, that Lagadian sort of like arena where like, our consciousness is an illusion, it doesn't, we don't really exist, it's like, it's
Yeah.
just, yeah, but that book made me, it put those thoughts in my head, man. So it's definitely worth reading.
Yeah, it's that kind of, it's like a pessimistic science fiction piece.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I'm going to reread that at some point because it's like, it's really dense, man. Like you know, it's very technical in some ways too,
Hmm.
and which I dig. I like that, where they talk about like propulsion systems and the air supply and like scrubbers for the air, all these like he'll go into these paragraphs of like all it's like technical engineering stuff too, which I thought was really interesting.
Right. Yeah, I mean, makes it more believable too when you read stuff like that.
I think
That
so, yeah.
or you can get it. Yeah, I'm probably gonna buy it because it's only $11 on Amazon right now. So.
I think I want to check out some of his other work too. He's got I think there's like an underwater like some sort of like ocean series, or there's like two or three books written around this sort of underwater thing.
Yeah, so it looks like so he's got what is all this? So yeah, starfish I
Yeah,
think.
that's it. Yeah. I
Yeah.
think that's like another, he's got a couple books that meditate on that for a few books.
Okay, so the Firefall is a trilogy, so it's Blindsight, Echoproxia, and The Colonel. It's the final book.
Oh yeah, I should probably read that third one.
And he's got another series called Rifters Trilogy.
Yeah, that's the one I was thinking. That's the one that's underwater, right?
Let me see. A nuclear strike in a deep sea vent. The target was an ancient microbe vicious enough to drive the whole biosphere to extinction. And it's like something that killed millions. It's a post-apocalyptic book.
Yeah, see, that's sick, right? It
Yeah.
sounds sick.
Like it's like this like ancient microbe got released out of after 3 billion years and basically destroyed like millions of people. Millions of refugees rally around a mythical figure mysteriously risen from the deep sea.
All right,
Huh.
yeah, that sounds great, right? That sounds really cool.
Yeah. Yeah. So the first book is Starfish. Yeah. Uh, that one starts off. A huge international corporation has developed a facility along the Juan de Fuca Ridge at the bottom of the Pacific Ocean to exploit geothermal power. They send a bioengineered crew, people have been altered to withstand the pressure and breathe the seawater, down to live and work in this darkness. Unfortunately, the only people suitable for this are crazy, some of them in unpleasant ways. How many of them can survive or will be allowed to survive while worldwide disaster approaches from below?
Yeah, see that right. I'm already kind of hooked now already. To go live and work in the darkness. That sounds fucking cool.
Yeah, it sounds like a cool series.
Yeah, and it's like my friend Chris Mountain recommended me that a few years ago, and he always came across with really good book recommendations. And Yeah, so I remember reading that. I was messaging him about it. I was like, yeah, this is thanks for recommending it to me because it's great.
Yeah, I mean, it's this guy sounds like he writes pretty interesting stories, you know.
I think
Like
he has some kind of technical background too. I think he's an engineer or something.
I'd imagine like if like what you're describing like of how how deep he gets into all the technical stuff, I would not be surprised if he's a you know, like a scientist of some sort.
Yeah, yeah, totally.
The but I mean that's kind of stuff that's cool. I mean, I always liked a lot of that, you know, for me like with sci-fi stuff, I was always into like like the cyberpunk stuff or when it does come with like some of the other things, I like the stuff that's got a darker edge to it, or it has a bit more grounding. It's not like totally crazy, like too crazy in the sense that like it's
Yeah.
like, you know, I guess I was never really like a Star Trek person necessarily. I was always into like maybe like, you know, I did like stuff like Ender's Game or, you know, I don't know, different stuff like that was cool, you know, like when I
Yeah.
was a kid.
I loved Star Trek. I mean, not all of the different series, but that was like I grew up watching Star Trek, so I preferred that. I actually like that more than Star Wars. I never really was into Star Wars.
Yeah, I um I would always I was definitely into Star Wars when I was a kid, but the I guess I just didn't grow up with Star Trek really because my dad wasn't necessarily a big fan of it per
Hmm.
se. So I watched like the I watched a lot of the original series
Yeah, Bill
uh,
Shatner, man.
with
Yeah.
William Shatner. Yeah, I mean
Hell yeah.
and then of course when I was a kid, it was during the age of Enterprise, right? That's the one with Patrick Stewart. Was that New
Uh
Generation?
I think that's New Generation with Picard.
Yeah, Picard. So definitely, I saw some of those episodes like when they're, you know, and I'd catch a few of like Voyager and stuff here and there. It's definitely something that's kind of like an unknown for me. Like I haven't seen too much you know what I mean? Like one day I should probably sit down and actually watch a lot of that stuff. You know what I mean?
I mean, it's like super dated, man. I mean, I enjoy it just because it's super nostalgic for me, and I love William Shatner and Leonard Nimoy. Like they're just, even when Leonard Nimoy shows up in other movies, I love it. Like when he's in Invasion of the Body Snatchers, with the one with Donald Sutherland, and I just love those characters, and I'm a huge Shatner fan, man. I love William Shatner. The Devil's Reign, it's like whenever he
Yeah.
shows up in a movie, I get stoked.
Oh yeah. I was there's this one YouTube guy I like who makes like big retrospectives on old particularly primarily old video game series and stuff. But he did a whole one about Tech War. Do you remember Tech War?
Yeah, yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
William Shatner, like he quote unquote wrote it. I think he had a ghostwriter, but he Tech War was pretty funny. I used to read like a random assortment of those books when I was a kid. I get them from the library,
Yeah, totally.
and they even made like a TV show and a Tech War TV show and a video game and
That I
movies
don't
and
remember
stuff.
that. I don't remember
Yeah,
that. Yeah.
I it doesn't sound like the show is very good, but um the it's funny to think about it. I mean, they put out like 20 something books for Tech War.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and I always like William Shatner. I like that he's got a sense of humor about it himself too, you know.
Yeah, totally, man. I mean, I don't know. He's just the records, like the music stuff he did. It's just like it's just
Yeah.
I don't know. I just think he's cool. I've always been a big fan of his.
Something I looked at Peter Watts indeed has a PhD um from the University of British Columbia and from the Department of Zoology and Resource Ecology.
Oh,
I guess
interesting. Okay.
he's worked as a marine mammal biologist and had research and teaching positions.
Oh, see now I really want to read that Starfish series there.
Yeah, so that makes a lot of sense why his Rifters trilogy was the first one that he put out. Makes a lot of sense now that he put out a book about underwater biology stuff, you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, totally.
Yeah, I definitely I've watched most of when it comes to Star Trek, I've watched mostly the old stuff with William Shatner and you
Yeah,
know.
yeah. definitely.
The one thing about that era of Star Trek that's really cool is that um a lot of really cool people wrote for that, you know. You had Harlan
Yeah.
Ellison,
Yep.
Gene Wolfe, like a lot of those guys wrote for fucking Star Trek, you know.
Yeah, they had great writers. That's maybe why I still enjoy it. You know what I mean? I mean, there is an element, like I said, of nostalgia, but I still the stories are just cool, I think, you know. Just the pilot episode was really cool, you know.
Yeah, I mean, um Gene Roddenberry, I mean, it's just because I think he's friends with all those guys, right? So he wanted to like bring all of his sci-fi and you know what writer friends and I'm surprised he didn't bring Philip K. Dick to write something, you know, like it's
Yeah.
probably because he's on all the drugs, but
I I really didn't watch much of the later series because a lot of that stuff started like in the 90s, and during the 90s I didn't even have a TV for like that entire decade really. So it was like I through the 90s I had like a VHS and a DVD player, and I didn't really watch like television, you know. And that's like I didn't get connected to any kind of like you know, media until like maybe 2005 or something like that. You know,
right, yeah.
so like once you started, you know, the internet was in a place where you start streaming things. So I, you know, I didn't watch a lot of that, you know, the next generation or, you know, I've seen it, you know, for sure, but not if I would go visit my parents or something like that, I'd stay up late and like it would be playing on some channel somewhere.
Yeah, watch like Deep Deep Space Nine
Deep
and
Space Nine, you know.
Voyager and
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, I didn't really catch a lot of that stuff while it was actually airing.
Um what's his name? The guy who played in Reanimator, why can't I think of his name?
Oh, Jeffrey Combs.
Jeffrey Combs. He played like a bunch of the characters on
Yeah,
the Star Trek shows. I
yeah.
think he played like three characters on two different shows or something like that. Like and he had like and one of them, I think it's Voyager is the one where he had his like recurring character who's on quite a bit. But yeah, it's one of those things eventually I'd like to check some of it out, you know, just to see how it is, you know, because I just don't some of it I don't the only thing about like the whole thing is like you have this you know, I'm just not too into like the utopian quality of some of the Star Trek stuff, but at the same time, they also do have quite a bit of darker stuff like the Borg and
Yeah, no,
Klingons
definitely.
and all kinds of
Yep.
stuff, you know, which is cool. That, you
One
know,
of my favorite episodes of the original series was when Spock goes back to Vulcan and he's like, it's time for him to like pick a mate, and he
hmm
just loses his mind. You know, he's like all emotional and stuff.
I
Yeah, it's
don't
like
think I've seen that episode.
that's a good dude. You try to find that on YouTube or I don't even know where Star Trek's streaming, but like it's this great episode, man. Him and Kirk fight each other and like it's just cool.
I've never seen that one. I do remember the Trouble of Tribbles or whatever. That was
Yep,
funny.
that's a good one. Yep, yep, yeah.
I think it should be on Paramount. Let me look real quick because it strikes me that isn't Star Trek owned by Paramount?
I have no idea. Maybe, probably.
Um, yeah, yeah. Everything Star Trek is on Paramount Plus.
Okay,
So
all right. So it's there.
you can watch all the new movies, you can watch Star Trek, the original series, Voyager, Enterprise, Discovery, the newer show Picard, all the movies. Yeah, Next Generation, Deep Space Nine. Yeah, literally anything and everything Star Trek, like all the original movies from the 70s. Um, you can watch it all right there on Paramount Plus. So that's pretty
Well, there you
nice.
go, man. It's
So
yeah.
I might need to watch some of that. I've also only seen the first couple of Star Trek movies. I remember liking those quite a bit
Yeah, yeah, they were
when I was a
cool.
kid, but I haven't seen them since I was a kid. So, and I think I've heard that what was it, Star Trek 3 is like the best one or something, Wrath of Khan or whatever.
That one's great. You
Yeah.
got Ricardo Montalban returns, you know, and he's like, you know, Khan, this like warlord, this galactic warlord. You know, it's really cool.
Yeah, I've always heard that was like the best. I didn't see those remakes that or reboots that
Oh, I saw the first one.
J.J. Abrams made.
Yeah, I mean, it was fun, you know. But I still prefer like the original guys, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like a big, vast world that I'm only dipped my toes in here and there, mostly when I was a kid. So maybe at some point I'll actually, since it's right there on Paramount Plus, I might watch some of that.
Yeah.
I've been watching Miami Vice right now, so
Yeah, Mike's been doing that too, and I used to love Miami Vice.
dude, it's so good. It's on Tubi. You can watch for free on Tubi, and which isn't too bad. There's only like an ad here. Like I think there's like three ad breaks, like at a minute each or something. It's not
I
bad.
totally back Tubi. They got like the wildest shit on there, man.
Yeah. So I've been watching Miami Vice on there, and yeah, man, it holds up. I mean, particularly those first half of season one. I mean, they went all out. Like it's like every episode's like a mini movie kind of. It's really good.
Yeah. I remember
So
Frank Zappa was on an episode.
was he?
Yeah.
I haven't gotten there yet.
I think he played like a drug dealer or something like that, some drug lord, drug kingpin.
I wouldn't be surprised. I mean,
Yeah.
there's a lot of great people. Bruce Willis was on as like a an arms dealer in
Yeah.
one of their episodes. Uh, what's his name? He played Al on Married with Children. He's on like episode three or four. Plays like an undercover FBI agent.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I can't remember his name. I know you're talking about. Yeah.
It's so weird watching that episode, dude. Like when I watch it, because I'm so used to watching, and I also watch Married with Children, and have since I was a kid, and I love that show so much. And I'm so used to him looking like he did on on Married with Children,
Yeah.
and you see him like 10 years, like well,
He's
not
like
10 years,
young.
but he looks so young in the
Oh
in
yeah.
the Miami Vice episode. Like I guess it was like what, like 6 years before that show started, but because Married with Children I think came out in '89 or
That dude,
'90. Yeah,
that dude is like 80 years old now.
yeah,
Yeah, because my wife is a huge Married with Children fan,
yeah.
and she's like whatever the fucking guy's name is. He turned 80 today. He's 80 years old.
Damn,
That young guy you saw in is now
Miami
80.
Vice.
Yeah, Miami
So
Vice.
so he must have been like maybe in his 30s in the
Yeah,
episode.
yeah,
Yeah, late,
probably.
like probably around my age or something. But he looked young like compared to what you're used to seeing him on like Married with Children. You know what I mean?
Yeah, true, true. Yeah. All right,
Married with
man.
Children is great. It's
So
so yeah.
next episode, we're gonna knock out the last third of this book, right?
Yep. The next one will be the last, and then on Everything Went Black the month after next will be the first episode of our Robert E. Howard series with Worms of the in the Earth, and then we'll be swinging back to Darkness Weaves for a little bit longer after that. But
Yeah, we got the Brian McMorn novel, and
yeah,
yeah. All right,
that
cool.
just makes more sense to me to just kick off the Robert E. Howard with Worms in the Earth and then do another few Darkness Weaves. You know what I mean?
That
Like
makes sense. Totally.
rather than reading the sequel to Worms of the Earth and then reading,
No, no,
like
no, exactly. No, I follow the logic. Yeah, no,
yeah,
definitely. Yeah,
yeah. Um, so it's gonna be cool. The savage world of Robert E. Howard's right around the corner.
that might be a good title for the sub series.
That's what I was thinking we should call it.
The
Yeah,
Savage World of Robert E. Howard. It's
yeah.
great. Yeah, I love it. Yeah.
I thought that I came up with that title a while ago when I was thinking about doing a whole Robert E. Howard podcast. I was like, that'd be a good title because um, it's like the savage sword of Conan.
Yeah. No, it
Yeah,
fits right in.
yeah. So that's I can't believe we're already there, dude. Like it's crazy.
I know,
But
man. It blows my mind sometimes when I think about how much of this stuff we'd covered.
the Region from the Shadows will probably be 4 episodes though, so
Yeah.
it'll be like later in the year. What month? We're probably like close to Halloween when we really fully kick off the Howard series with King Cole.
Yeah.
But we'll see. Legion. I need to actually break down Legion from the Shadows, but I think it's longer than this one. I think it's like 100 pages longer than um Road of Kings. I think it's like 350 or something or
Oh, okay.
300.
Well,
So
that's good. It's a
yeah,
nice sizable, chunk of reading.
yeah. I think it's
Yeah.
about as long as Darkness Weaves was. So,
Right on.
but yeah, hope everybody enjoyed, and it was always a lot of fun, and we have a few things in the works as well when we have some time. So outside of this, that we're gonna do. So
All right, guys. We'll talk to you soon. Take care now.